park with some AirPods in. But while I wait for people to join, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my crazy new plan. It's actually something I've wanted to do for a while, and that is to buy a piece of land. I don't have much money right now, so I can't buy a house, but what I could do is buy a piece of land and start building a house little by little. But to buy land here in Queretaro, you're probably looking at $150 per square meter, something like that. But looking at various property around the state of Querétaro, I'm finding land for as little as $1 or so, maybe a buck 50 per square meter. So, I mean, that's pretty reasonable, and it's like I've seen some on like some really cool looking land as well. So that's something I really want to do. And eventually, I actually would love to build a whole community. So it's not just our house, it's like other people building their homes as well. And I have this idea of like kind of like eco homes, like sustainable homes, like solar panels, things like that. But yeah, I honestly like very ignorant about this all. I don't know much about it, so yes, I know it's going to take a lot of hard work, a ton of research, and probably partnering with people who know a lot more than I do. But I mean, I know I can do it. But anyway, I'll take a look at the chat here. I'm new to this on my phone, so I have to like figure out what I'm doing here. Expedite Travel says, build yourself a shipping container house by 4 or 5 shipping containers and get creative. Yeah, I've seen those before, and like homes that are built out of those, and I think they're always super cool. So that's that's definitely something that I'd consider. I'm gonna have to do a whole lot of research into what I would like to do, and there's the whole process of finding and buying the land first. So uh, that's still probably a little ways out. William says, I want to buy a place big enough for a garden, some fruit trees, and avocado trees. Yeah, and I don't I don't want a home that it just has like a small fenced in area with very little yard. I I too would like a bigger space that can have enough space to plant trees like that to have a garden, things like that. Ala Madrid says we need weekly videos. No, that's actually a change that I'm considering on this channel. For a long time, I've been putting out a video every single Saturday, or sometimes if the video's not ready on Saturday, I'll put it out on Sunday. But regardless, once a week, I'm putting out a video. And lately, I felt like I've been feeling rushed almost every week to try to get another video ready. And it's not only been putting a lot of stress on me, but I also feel like it has hurt the quality of the videos too. So for a little bit at least, going forward, what I'm going to try is that I'll just like put out a video when I have a good video ready instead of shooting for one a week. So realistically, we're probably looking at a video every 10 days or so. It could be a week or even less than a week, depending on what's going on, how much I'm traveling. Because when I'm traveling, there's a lot more content there than when I'm here in the city. Christian asked, "Do I know about boxable homes?" No, I don't know any. I don't know anything about the various kinds of homes. Someone I posted like a poll on YouTube on the community tab, and someone said build an Earthship, and I was like, "What the hell's an Earthship?" Because my mind went to spaceship, and I had never heard that word before. Tim Flanagan asked, "Can you give an dollar amount per acre?" Um, what I can tell you is that if you buy a big enough property, I've seen prices as low in certain parts in the state of Querétaro, not like by the city of Querétaro, but in the state. I've seen prices as low as $1 or $2 per square meter. So you can just do the calculation of how many square meters are in an acre. And then maybe someone can post that in the chat here. Dwayne says, make it happen, Jordan. I will come join you in 4.5 years when I retire. Yeah, I would love to build a community. Um, but honestly, before I ever do any of that, like I feel like I need to buy a smaller piece of land for myself, build a home on it, learn a lot in the process, and then like maybe a couple years down the line after I learn a lot more, then I can start thinking about buying a bigger piece of land and like building a community where I invite people to buy portions of that land. But to buy a big enough piece of land to like portion it out and like have big lots for everybody, I don't know. I'm probably looking at $750,000. So, uh, like in addition to figuring out a whole bunch of other stuff, I would also have to figure out the financing, like how the heck I'm going to get that financed, uh, which it would probably be untraditional financing, not from a bank or anything like that. But yeah, I think down the line I can make it happen. David asks, has anyone ever had issues with the police trying to take your phone or car away from you? I mean, I'm sure people have, and like for example, if you bring a foreign plated car into Mexico, you have to get a temporary import permit, and if you're driving outside of the free zones, and basically the free zones are part of the state of Sonora. So you can go down to Puerto Penasco, basically as far south as Guaymas in Sonora, without the temporary import permit, and you can drive through the entire Baja Peninsula without a temporary import permit. But if you go outside of the free zone, you need to get that. It's called a TIP, tip for short. And if you don't have that outside of the free zone, well, then they can legally impound your car, and a lot of times to get your car out of impound, the fines are more than the value of your entire car. So it's very important that you get that permit. And I bring that up because yes, they can legally take your car if you don't have a valid permit. Jake asks, "Hey Jordan, raising a family in Mexico, will you expose them to? I assume you mean expose your children to American culture too." Uh, I mean, like when I have kids, I would like them to see various cultures around the world because when you see how different people live in different parts of the world, your your eyes are opened a lot more. And then also they learn about various cultures and parts of the world, how different people live, the different languages they speak, the different money they use. So, I mean, I think traveling to different places with children, although traveling with children, I know it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world, but I do think that it would be a valuable life lesson for them. Maria says, my husband and I are planning on moving to Querétaro from Zamora, Michoacan. Cool. Yeah, Querétaro is a nice place. I assume you mean the city, which when people mention Querétaro, they're usually talking about the city. I like it here. Uh, but like I was talking earlier in the stream, if you missed it, I was talking about buying land and land or buying a lot in the city of Querétaro is a lot more expensive than in other parts of the state. Like here, it might be $150 or 3,000 pesos per square meter, but I've in other parts I've seen it as little as $1 or $2 or 20 to 40 pesos per square meter. Just really depends on the location, of course. Zilla asks, can Americans work in Mexico without a visa or citizenship? Mm, that, like, working as an employee, no. Like, as an for an employee role for a Mexican company, no, you're going to need some kind of work visa to do that. Now, if you're working for, let's say, an American company remotely online, and you're staying in Mexico, well then it's more of a gray area, but there's a lot of people doing that, and I think technically, INM Mexican Immigration wants you to have your residency, like temporary or permanent residency, but yeah, there's lots of people doing it, and if you are planning on living in Mexico permanently, especially, then yeah, it's if you're just a tourist here, not really from a practical standpoint. I'm not sure about the legal technicalities, but yeah, lots of people do that. Lee Martinez says, "Do you see any Hispanic Americans moving to Mexico?" Yeah, yeah, and from what I've seen, those Hispanic Americans moving to Mexico are mostly Mexican Americans. Tom says, just a quick shout out. Got a Wise debit card for one of your videos. Works out good. Use it for all my debit transactions and online for payments in Mexico. Yeah, the Wise debit card can be a great option. Also, a Charles Schwab checking account and debit card is another good option. And then there's also one I haven't tried called a Revolut that I've heard good things about as well. Guru Cha says, I would think pay would be less at a Mexican company than an American company. Uh, in general, yes. Um, so, like a lot of my friends here in Querétaro, they want to work for American companies, and a lot of them do. Like, for example, I know someone working here in Querétaro, uh, working for Boeing, another one working for Kellogg's, another one is working for Pedigree, another one is working for Michelin. So not they're not all I'm not sure if every company I named is an American company, but anyway, they're all foreign companies, and there's a lot of American companies here. There's a lot of Japanese and Korean companies here, and those they want to work for those companies rather than a Mexican company because number one, the hours that they have to work are typically shorter. It's typically 5 days a week instead of 6 days a week, and the hours that they have to work each day are generally shorter. And also, while they're working shorter hours, they're getting paid more than most Mexican companies. So now I don't know exactly how much they make, but every person I know who works for a US company here in Querétaro says, yeah, they treat me really well. Like they pay me well and uh, I mean, yes, it is a lot of work, but I get weekends off. I don't know, most of them really appreciate working for an American company. Well, no, not most of them. Every single person I know who works for an American company here likes it. Maria asks, how expensive is Querétaro compared to other states? So, the state of Querétaro compared to other states, I'm not exactly sure because I don't have as much experience in other parts of Querétaro. But the city of Querétaro compared to other major cities, Querétaro is definitely more expensive. Now, there are still cheaper parts of the city, like there, not all parts of the city are the expensive parts. There's a lot of places you can live here that are cheaper, but yeah, in general, I would put Querétaro in like the top 25% most expensive of the major cities around the country. Peter asked, question: have you ever met any Spanish people who have moved to Mexico? It should be easy to hear from their accent. Um, I think I've come across a few, but I'm not friends with any. I'm just trying to think of people in particular, and I don't remember, but I know I have had like I've seen quite a few comments over the years on the channel saying, "Hey, I'm from Spain. I'm moving to Mexico, or I just moved to Mexico." And actually, there's a lot going the other way too. I meet quite a few Mexicans who want to move to Spain. It's funny. I feel like there's this idea in the US that like all Mexicans only want to go to the US. Like if they want to leave Mexico, their goal is to go to the US. But honestly, of the Mexicans I've met, at least those like that are in my like that might come into my social circle, similar age as me, not all of them want to stay here, but very few of them who want to leave want to go to the US. I think I'm going to walk around a little bit just out at the park here. Just been sitting on a bench. But yeah, for example, I know one person who wants to go live in Japan. I know a few people who want to go live in Spain. I know a couple people who want to go live in Canada. Other people who want to go to various places in Europe. So yeah, I think I've only ever met one person. No, and I was going to say I think I've only ever met one Mexican here who wants to go to the U.S. But now that I was thinking about it, she actually wants to move to Germany, but she would move to the U.S. if like that was her only option. So I'm just holding my phone here. I don't have a what do they call that? A gimbal or anything. Uh, I actually wasn't planning on doing a live stream today, but I had some extra time waiting for Mai to get off work. Cauliflower. uh, it's a funny name. While living in Turks and Caicos, five like-minded people were going to share property, building five small homes with a common outside area. Yeah, I'd like to do something like that eventually. I was thinking something bigger. Um, Maybe, well, something to build like a small city. So maybe 100 families or something. Also says the main positive for me was having someone to care for my pets while I traveled. Each person was just to put up pre-build money. Good idea, but never happened. Yeah, and that'd be a challenge. Like I'm at the very beginning of like looking for property, and for example, to do a project like this, I found one property that I love, one piece of land that I love, but it was $750,000 plus the closing costs, and then there's the cost of paying the lawyers to make everything legal, getting the permits, getting the environmental studies done, building access roads in and out. So you probably look like for what I would like to do eventually, I'm probably looking at $1 million invested before a single person builds a home in there. So yeah, I mean, I think it'll be doable, but with the right partners, with the right knowledgeable people. But I mean, have to figure out a way to finance that. Damisi with the 199 super chat. Thank you very much. Hey Jordan, what a surprise! Yeah, middle of the day on a Tuesday. I wasn't. It's a surprise for me to go live too. Uh, Peter says, question in Peru, if you go to the bank or any municipal office, you get much better service if you put on a suit and tie. Is it the same in Mexico? Um, I don't know about like municipal offices, um, but if you go to a place like to, let's say, nicer restaurants, things like that, if they think you have money, you're probably going to get better service. Now, that's not all the time, but I mean, especially when it's people working on tips, if they think you could afford a big tip, I think generally you're going to be getting better service. Tim asks, we love Puerto Vallarta, but our friends are looking for a more year-round climate-friendly location, such as San Miguel de Allende. I'm afraid I would get bored in a smaller town like San Miguel. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the individual. For me, I like small towns. I don't know how much I would like living in one permanently, though, but I like them for a place for a weekend getaway. I love nature, but at the same time, like I like I like a lot of the conveniences of the big city at times too. So I don't know. For me, they both the city and the small towns have their positive and negatives. But also, I don't I don't need a lot of stuff to do. I don't need a lot of things to do. I I get plenty of entertainment on my own, like reading, listening to audiobooks, watching YouTube. Uh, what else? What else do I like to do? Like playing board games, being out in nature, going for a hike, mountain biking, walking, going out with Alaska. All sorts of things like that. So yeah, I don't need the everything that a big city has. RBA says, yeah, I think a lot of Mexicans like Spain. Yeah, um, there there's a heck of a lot more Mexicans that want to move to Spain than at least the ones that meet than want to move to the United States. And between Mexico and the Iberian Peninsula, they have like this mutual agreement. And if you don't know, the Iberian Peninsula is the peninsula next to the Strait of Gibraltar that has Spain and Portugal. So you can, if you're Mexican, you can move there. If you're from the Iberian Peninsula, you can move here. Heather says, my hubby and I are moving to Puerto Morelos in a month or so after our house in Arizona sells. Any advice? Uh, Off the top of my head, the first thing I think of is go check out all the videos that uh, Tangerine Travels did in Puerto Morelos. We made a lot of videos while there since we were living there for almost 2 years, I think it was, although we did travel quite a bit while living there. Yeah, it's a nice place. I like Puerto Morelos. Globetrotting says, I love small town living. Visiting the big city is fun when the weather is good, and usually at the beginning of or at the beginning or end of the peak season, so that there's less tourists. Yeah, I like a lot about small town living too, but specifically if there's like things to do in nature in that small town. Uh, Zilla asked, does Mexico have many casinos? Yes, there's a whole bunch of casinos here. It seems like almost every mall has a casino attached to it. And then there's standalone casinos as well. I've never been to one. Peter asked, do you have an issue with snakes or scorpions where you live now? Is it less than in Arizona? Uh, so in my last house here, I never saw, wait, I never saw a scorpion, but there was one snake that I saw in the lake next to the house. Um, but outside of the water, I never saw one. But in the new house, it's more rural. And so far, in 2 months or so, I found two scorpions. Globetrotting. Yeah, I was curious if you've gone down the Baja coast during your Mexican travels. No, I think there's only 5 states that I haven't been to in Mexico of the 32, and 2 of those are Baja California Sur and Norte, uh, or well, Baja California and then Baja California Sur. So yeah, it's a place I need to go and I want to go. Cisco Lopez says, to answer your question, yes, I would love to see the process of buying and building on a plot of land. Yeah, I think it'd be cool. Honestly, this the series of videos I would do on that would probably just be like me showing you all of our struggles because I know that if I do this, there's just going to be one struggle after another. Domizi says, your connection is pretty good compared to the Philippines, where the connection is crappy and you always need Wi Fi. Yeah, so I have up to 5G coverage. Uh, when I started this stream, I only had 4G, but I think it was full bars of 4G. I Something I did recently. Well, I have Telcel cell service here, and shortly after coming to Mexico, well, when I came to Mexico, I was on T-Mobile in the U.S. But then after like a couple of months here in Mexico, they sent me a message being like, "Hey, use less data, or we're going to kick you off." Um, because like, yes, you have coverage in Mexico. Yes, you have data in Mexico. However, our service is not intended for long-term use outside of the country. So then a few more weeks go by. One day our Wi-Fi goes out, and I upload a video to YouTube using tethering because I had unlimited data with T-Mobile. Well, the next day they're like, "We're terminating your contract in 30 days." So it was at that point that I was like, "Okay, well now we need to find a new cell service provider here in Mexico." And then after asking around, we found out, okay, the two best are Telcel and AT&T, but if you're going to be traveling, Telcel has the best coverage. So that's what we ended up doing. We went with Telcel, but when you go to one of these cell phone providers, you can do one of two things. You can get packages, paquetes, or a plan. And basically, if you're the easier route is getting the paquetes, the packages. And with this, you just buy a SIM card. At the time, it was like $4. I'm not sure what a SIM card costs now. And then every month or 15 days or however often you want to do it, you can just go to basically any convenience store here or do it online and just buy a new paquete, a new package. And with that, depending on which one you choose, it's $5, $10, $15 a month. The most I've ever paid for that uh, was $25 a month buying their 500 peso package. And basically, the more you pay, the more data you get. And it's unlimited social media, so you get unlimited Facebook, uh, Instagram, Snapchat, Uber, and then WhatsApp, and I think there's one or two others. And then in addition to that, you get unlimited texting and calling, plus a limited amount of data. And typically, like getting the 200 peso per month package was good enough for me. And I forget what that got me, maybe 3 gigs of data. And most of the time, I wouldn't use those 3 gigs. But recently, what I did was I went to Telcel and I got a plan because lately I've been using more data. I've been wanting to be able to do live streams like this, which uses a lot of data. And like my data was running out really quickly just because I was doing things on my phone that required a lot more of it. So I went to Telcel and I got a plan. And with this plan, I'm now paying a lot more money than I was before. What is it now? I'm on the one that's 900 pesos a month, so $45 a month, which gets me like, I forget, 25 gigabytes of data each month. But I decided to start paying more because I never want to run out. And sometimes I run out at very inconvenient times. Like uh, one time, just like a couple of weeks ago, I was driving and then I run out of data and my map stops working. So I didn't know how to get home. So that was a pretty frustrating time, and things like that happen pretty often actually. Leticia says casinos in Querétaro. I was there 2 years ago. Too bad I didn't know. Love casinos. Say hi to mine. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of them here. Cotton Eye Darren says you should get a place where you can have chickens. They are easy to raise, and the fresh eggs are worth it. Yeah, the fresh eggs would be cool. Uh, my dad lives in a place where he has a chicken coop, and uh, he actually has a lot of problems with predators killing the chickens. So over the years, when he's been living there, they've tried to predator proof this chicken coop as much as they could, but these predators, they keep getting in, they keep finding ways in, and he's had chickens killed by coyotes, chickens killed by fox, chickens killed by raccoons. Uh, like especially has trouble with the raccoons, like figuring out ways, tearing off parts of the roof and climbing down in there and killing them. Cauliflower says buying a building would be problematic, but it sounds like a fun experience to get into. Risk reward. It's to me, it sounds like it would be a challenge. It would be a new learning experience. Probably a lot of frustrations. I'm sure a lot of frustrations, but also something I've never done before. I'd like to try something new. Mhm. Peter asks, when you go back to the States, what do you bring back to Mexico apart from licorice? Uh, Sometimes I bring new equipment for like recording or a new laptop, a new phone. Like for example, if I want to buy a new laptop here, they're they're not only quite a bit more expensive, but also all of the keyboards are the Mexican version of the keyboard. So uh, I'm used to typing on a different keyboard. So whenever I get one of those Mexican keyboards, it's always pretty frustrating for me. So there's that, and then like cameras and audio equipment is cheaper in the U.S. So I'll get stuff like that. And then what else? Vitamins and supplements. Uh, there's a lot of vitamins and supplements that I either can't get here or can't find here in like the quality I want, things like that. Well, let me see if I can block some spammer. Um, Report. Okay. And now blocked. Cool. Got it. But yeah, so I get vitamins and supplements because some things you can have, well, most things you can just order it online and get it sent here, but vitamin supplements is something you cannot order online from outside of the country. And the selection within the country is pretty limited. So if you do order it every time, it gets confiscated by customs. So don't, don't even bother is my advice when it comes to that. However, they have no problem with you bringing it in for personal use, whether you're driving or flying. Kokalti asks, what is the minimum amount that you would live on a month in Mexico? The minimum amount I think I could live on is about 300 US dollars. But that wouldn't be the kind of life I want to live. But I'm just saying that's the minimum. Now, if all I had was $300 a month, it'd be a hell of a lot easier to live on 300 a month in Mexico than on 300 a month in the US, for example. But yeah, it'd still be a challenge, but it can be done. But for me to live a comfortable life here, assuming I don't own a home and I have to rent, $1,000 a month. Raymond asked, "Can you get antibiotics in Mexico?" Yes, you can. No problem. So easy says 300 only covers your weekend here in the U.S. Yeah, and like honestly, depending on your lifestyle here, it could be a weekend here as well. But yeah, like with that budget, I've budgeted this before, and including saving 10% of that every month. So every month, $30 of that goes into savings, and it budgets about like 75 or $100 a month for a rental, which you might think is impossible to find, but there's actually a lot of options like that. Even in a more expensive city like here in Queretaro, if you go on Facebook Marketplace, you can find tons of options under $100 a month. Now, of course, they're not luxury by any means, but yeah, it can be done. Alrighty. Well, I just got a text from Mai saying that she's done with work, so I'm gonna go meet her now. Thank you all for joining the live stream. Later, when I get home, I'll, if I'm going to leave this stream up at all, I'll put chapters down below so you can skip to the parts that you're interested in watching. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate it. See you later.